Hi guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet to do so. And if you get anything from my work, a connect the dot, an epiphany, a mind blown moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are in the description of this video. And if you get anything out of my work, fresh out of the mold, I'm making hearts. Trying not to get the glare from the lights. It's a little difficult. But I'm doing solid back with some sparkles. This is like a coral orange. It's like a mix. And then there's pretty flowers inside. So I am creating these. And then these cute little guys. You can put like little bathroom cups in it, your jewelry. Made this cool blue color. My coasters are coming out a little wonky, so I might just make them accent pieces, the ones that are a little warpy. I got skulls with actual bigger gems inside with the little gems. Business card holders. And of course, behind me and on the table is a ton of pyramids, but then I have a whole bunch of pyramids over there. And then artwork. So if you're interested in anything creative, different, Father's Day is coming up. It's a little rushed. But if you have a birthday or just something you want to give something original and handmade, go over to my website, AllyKatzkreations211.com, and email me because I'll be able to help you get something going. Hi. Very odd and weird day today. I had an interesting day yesterday. And then I didn't want to wake up today. And then I had no choice. Very long day. But we're so close to being done with this book, and it's making me sad. I love this book. We're close. We're not cool. Oh my gosh, we are. We're like we're coming to an end. And that makes me sad. But we're not ending today, obviously. But today, the mystery of the apocalypse. The Secret Teachers of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. And this should be Mystery of the Apocalypse. This should be interesting. Okay, yeah, upstairs. Sorry. So before I get into this reading, I just wanted to put out there that whatever end that you're thinking of is a perception you've been programmed to think. You've probably read it somewhere. Everybody has an end. And there are ending of cycles, there are ending of days, there's ending of all kinds of things. But please, whatever is said in here, obviously I'm reading it with you. Do not fear. Do not do that. We tend to attract the things that scare us because that's the frequency we're emoting out. So if people are talking about the end of the world as we know it, love that song, but I feel fine should be the next insert there, and you should feel fine because you orchestrated your life. Sorry, allergies. The mystery of the apocalypse. The presence of the temple of Diana at Ephesus marked the city as sacred to the mystery religion. For the 7 wonders of the ancient world were erected to indicate the repositories of recondite knowledge. Of Ephesius H.P. Blavatsky writes, quote, "It was a focus of the universal secret doctrines, the weird laboratory whence fashioned an elegant Grecian phraseology, sprang the quintessence of Buddhistic, Zoroastrianism, and Chaldean philosophy. Artemis, the gigantic concrete symbol of theosophic, pantheistic abstractions, the great mother, multi-mama, androgyny, and patroness of the Ephesian writings, was conquered by Paul. But although the zealous converts of the apostles pretended to burn all their books on curious arts, enough of these remained for them to study when their first zeal had cooled off." End quote. And that's in Isis Unveiled, which I will be reading eventually on this channel. Being a great center of pagan learning, Ephesus has been the locale for many early Christian myths. The assertion has been made that it was the last domicile of the Virgin Mary. Also, the tomb of St. John the Divine was located there. According to legend, St. John did not depart from this life in the usual manner, but selecting his vault, entered it while still alive, and closing the entrance behind him, vanished forever from mortal sight. A rumor was current in ancient Ephesus that St. John would sleep in his tomb until the return of the Savior, and that when the apostle turned over on his sepulchre couch, the earth above moved like the coverlets of a bed. Subjected to more criticism than any other book now incorporated in the New Testament, the Apocalypse, properly accredited to St. John the Divine, is by far the most important but least understood of the Gnostic Christian writings. Though Justin Martyr declared the book of Revelation to have been written by John, one of Christ's apostles, its authorship was disputed as early as the 2nd century after Christ. In the 3rd century, these contentions became acute, and even Dionysius of Alexandria and Eusebius attacked the Joannian theory, declaring that both of the book of Revelation and the Gospel, according to John, were written by one Corinthius, who borrowed the name of the great apostle the better to foist his own doctrines upon Christians. Later, Jerome questioned the authorship of the Apocalypse, and during the Reformation, his objections were revived by Luther and Irenaeus. The once generally accepted notion that the book of Revelation was the act recorded of a mystical experience according to St. John, while that seer was in exile in the Isle of Patmos, is now regarded with disfavor by more critical scholars. Other explanations have therefore been advanced to account for the symbolism permeating the volume and the original motive for its writing. The more reasonable of these theories may be summed up as follows. It was raining pollen yesterday, not my friend. First, upon the weight of evidence furnished by its own contents, the book of Revelation may well be pronounced a pagan writing, one of the sacred books of the Ecclesian or Pharian mysteries. As a culinary, the real author of a work setting forth the profundities of Egyptian and Greek mysticism must have been an initiate himself, and consequently obliged to write only in the symbolic language of the mysteries. Second, it is possible that the book of Revelation was written to recounsel the seeming discrepancies between the early Christian and pagan religious philosophies. When the zealots of the primitive Christian church sought to Christianize paganism, the pagan initiates retorted with a powerful effort to paganize Christianity. The Christians failed, but the pagans succeeded. With the decline of paganism, the initiated pagan hierophants transferred their base of operations to the new vehicle of the primitive Christianity, adopting the symbols of the new cult to conceal those eternal verities which are ever the priceless possession of the wise. The apocalypse shows clearly the resultant fusion of pagan and Christian symbolism, and thus bears irrefutable evidence of the activities of these initiated minds operating through early Christianity. Third, the theory has been advanced that the Book of Revelation represents the attempt made by the unscrupulous members of a certain religious order to undermine the Christian mysteries by satirizing their philosophy. This nefarious end they hope to obtain by showing the new faith to be merely a restatement of the ancient pagan doctrines, by heaping ridicule upon Christianity, and by using its own symbols towards its disparagement. For example, the star which fell to earth could be construed to be the means of the Star of Bethlehem, and the bitterness of the star called wormwood, in which poisoned mankind, could signify the false teachings of the Christian church. While the last theory has gained a certain measure of popularity, the profundity of the apocalypse leads the discerning reader to the inevitable conclusion that this is the least plausible of the three hypotheses. To those able to pierce the veil of its symbolism, the inspired source of document requires no further corroboration and corroborative evidence. In the final analysis, true philosophy can be limited by neither creed nor faction. In fact, it is incapable with every artificial imitation of human thought. The question of pagan or Christian origin of the Book of Revelation is consequently of little importance. The intrinsic value of the book lies in its magnificent epitome of the universal mystery, an observation which led St. Jerome to declare that it is susceptible of 7 entirely different interpretations. Untrained in the reaches of ancient thought, the modern theologian cannot possibly cope with the complexities of the apocalypse. For to him, this mystic writing is but a phantasmagoria, the divine inspiration of which he is sorely tempted to question. In the limited space here available, it is possible to sketch but briefly a few of the salient features of the vision of the seer of Patmos. A careful consideration of the various pagan mysteries will assist materially also in filling the inevitable gaps in the abridgment. In the opening chapter of the Apocalypse, St. John describes the Alpha and the Omega who stood in the midst of the 7 golden candlesticks. Surrounded by his flaming planetary regions, the Sublime One thus epitomizes in one impressive and mysterious figure the entire sweep of humanity's evolutionary growth, past, present, and future. The first stage of man's earthly development, writes Dr. Rudolf Steiner, love him, ran their course at a period when the earth was still fiery, and the first human incarnations were formed out of the element of fire. At the end of his earthly career, man will find himself radiate his inner being outwards, creatively by the force of the element of fire. This continuous development from the beginning to the end of the earth reveals itself to the seer when he sees on the astral plane the archetype of evolving man. The beginning of earthly evolution stands forth in the fiery feet, its end in the fiery continents, and the complete power over the creative word, to be finally won, is seen in the fiery source coming out of the mouth. In his restored New Testament, James Morgan Paris tracks and traces the relationship of various parts of the Alpha and Omega to the 7 sacred planets of the ancients. To quote, the Logos figure described in the composite picture of the 7 sacred planets. He has the snowy white hair of Kronos, Father Time, the blazing eyes of wide-seeing Zeus, the sword of Ares, the shining face of Helios, and the chiton and girdle of Aphrodite. His feet are of Mercury, the metal sacred to Hermes, and his voice is like the murmur of the ocean waves, the many waters, alluding to Serene, the moon goddess of the four seasons and of the waters. The seven stars carried by this immense being in his right hand are the governors of the world. The flaming sword issuing from his mouth is a creative fiat, a word of power, by which the illusion of material permanence is slain. Here also is represented in all his symbolic splendor the Hierophant of Vigarian mysteries, his various insignia emblematic of his divine attributes. Seven priests bearing lamps are his attendants, and the stars carried in his hand are the seven schools and the mysteries whose power he administers. As one born again out of the spiritual darkness into perfect wisdom, the Archimagnus is made to say, I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And have the keys of hell and of death. In the second and third chapters of St. John delivers to the seven churches which are in Asia the injunctions received by him from the Alpha and Omega. The churches are here analogous to the rungs of Metheric ladder, and John, being in the spirit, ascended through the orbits of the seven sacred planets until he reached the inner surface of the Empyrean. Not Hyperion. After the soul of the prophet, writes the anonymous author of Mankind, Their Origin and Destiny, in his eclastic state, his pass into the rapid flight through the seven spheres, from the sphere of the moon to that of Saturn, or from the planet which corresponds to Cancer, the gate of men, to that of Capricorn, which is the gate of the gods. A new gate opens to him in the highest heaven, and in the zodiac, beneath which the seven planets revolve, in a word, in the firmament, or that which the ancients call crystallinum. Okay. Yes, Allison. Yes, dyslexia and projection issues. Crystallinum premium, or the crystal heaven. When related to the Eastern system of metaphysics, these churches represent the chakras, or nerve ganglia, along the human spine, the door in heaven being the Marandara, or point in the crown of the skull, Goliath. I don't like some of these words that I can't pronounce. Sorry, guys. They don't come out. Oh, my mouth. Through which the spinal spirit fire passes to liberation. The Church of the Euphysia. Okay, hang on. I have to clear my mind. Hang on. Ephesus corresponds to the Muladhara, or sacred ganglion, and the other churches to the higher ganglia. According to the order given in Revelation, Dr. Steiner discovers a relationship between the seven churches and the divisions of the Aryan race. Thus, the Church of Ephesus stands for the Arch-Indian branch, the Church of Simnir, whatever, the Arch-Parisians, and the Church of Pergamos, the Chaldean Egyptian Semitic, the Church of the Three. I don't like other languages. That's why I don't excel in even English. Whatever, the Greek, Latin, Roman, the Church of Sardis, the Teuton, Anglo-Saxon, the Church of Philadelphia, the Slavic, and the Church of Laodicea, whatever, the Manchurian. Sorry, guys, I am not frustrating my mind when I can't say words. The seven churches also signify the Greek vowels, of which Alpha and Omega are the first and the last. A difference of opinion exists as to the order in which the seven planets should be related to the churches. Some proceed from the hypothesis that Saturn represents the Church of Ephesus, but from the fact that this city was sacred to the moon goddess and also that the sphere of the moon is the first above that of the earth. The planets obviously should ascend to their ancient order from the moon to Saturn. From Saturn, the soul would naturally ascend through the door of the Empyrean. In the 4th and 5th chapters, St. John describes the throne of God, which upon sat the Holy One, which was and is to come. About the throne were 24 lesser seats, upon which sat 24 elders, arrayed in white garments and wearing crowns of gold. And out of the throne proceeded lightning and thunderings and voices. And there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. He who sat upon the throne held his right hand a book sealed with 7 seals, which no man in heaven or earth had been found worthy to open. Then appeared a lamb, Aries, the first and chief of the zodiacal signs, which had been slain, having 7 horns, rays, and 7 eyes, lights. The lamb took the book from the right hand of him that sat upon the throne, and the 4 beasts and all the elders fell down and worshiped God and the Lamb. During the early centuries of the Christian church, the Lamb was universally recognized as a symbol of Christ. And not until after the 5th Synod of Constantinople was the figure of the crucified man substituted for that of Agnus Dei. As shrewdly noted by one writer on the subject, that use of a lamb is indicative of the Persian origin of Christianity, for the Persians were the only people to symbolize the first sign of the zodiac by a lamb. Because of a lamb was the sin offering of the ancient pagans, the early mystic Christians considered this animal as an appropriate emblem of Christ, whom they regarded as the sin offering of the world. The Greeks and the Egyptians highly venerated the lamb or ram, often placing its horns upon the foreheads of their gods. The Scandinavian god Thor carried a hammer made from a pair of ram's horns. The lamb is used in reference to the ram, apparently because of its purity and gentleness. Also, since the creator himself was symbolized by Aries, his son would consequently be the little ram or lamb. The lambskin apron worn by the Freemasons over the part of the body symbolized by Typhon or Judas represents the purification of the generative processes, which is a prerequisite to the true spirituality. In this allegory, the lamb signifies the purified candidate, its 7 horns representing the divisions of illuminated reason, and its 7 eyes, the chakras, or perfected sense perceptions. The 6th to 11th chapters inclusive are devoted to an amount of the opening of the 7 seals on the book held by the Lamb. When the first seal was broken, then rode forth a man on a white horse, wearing a crown and holding in his hand a bow. When the second seal was broken, then rode forth a man upon a red horse, and in his hand was a great sword. When the 3rd seal was broken, then rode forth a man upon a black horse, and with a pair of balances in his hand. And then the 4th seal was broken, then rode for death upon a pale horse, and hell followed after him. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse may be interpreted to signify the 4 main divisions of human life. Birth is represented by the rider on the white horse, who comes forth conquering and to conquer. The impetus of youth for the rider on the red horse, who took peace from the earth. Maturity by the rider on the black horse, who weighs all things in the scales of reason, and death by the rider on the pale horse, who was given power over a 4th part of the earth. In the Eastern philosophy, these horsemen signify the 4 yugas or ages of the world, which, riding forth at their appointed times, become a certain span of rulers of creation. Commenting on the 24th allocation of Christotum, whatever, in the origin of the religious worship, Dupuis notes that each of the 4 elements were represented by a horse bearing the name of the god. who was set over the element. The first horse signifying fire, ether, was called Jupiter, and occupied the highest place in the order of the elements. This horse was winged, very fleet, and describing the largest circle, encompassed all the others. It shone with the purest light, and on its body were the images of the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the bodies in the ethereal regions. The second horse, signifying the element of air, was Juno. It was inferior to the horse of Jupiter and described a smaller circle. Its color was black, but that part exposed to the sun became luminous, thus signifying the diurnal and nocturnal conditions of air. The third horse, symbolizing the element of water, was sacred to Neptune. It was a heavy gate and described a very small circle. The fourth horse, signifying the static element of earth, described as immovable, and championing its bit, was the steed of Vesta. Despite their differences in temperature, these four horses lived harmoniously together, which is in accord with the principles of the philosophers who declared the world to be preserved by the concord and harmony of its elements. In time, however, the racing horses of Jupiter burned the mane of the horse of Earth, and the thundering steed of Neptune also became covered with sweat, which overflowed the immovable horse of Vesta and resulted in the deluge of Duclon, however you pronounce that. And please don't butcher me. I know there's people out there that do that. I can't pronounce shit. At last, the fury horse of Jupiter will consume the rest when the three inferior elements, purified by reabsorption in the fury ether, will come forth renewed, constituting a new heaven and a new earth. Where are we going right now? New earth. When the fifth seal was opened, St. John beheld those who had died for the word of God. When the sixth seal was broken, there was a great earthquake, the sun being darkened and the moon becoming like blood. The angels of the winds came forth, and also another angel who sealed upon their foreheads 144,000 of the children of Israel, that they should be preserved against the awful day of tribulation. Someone saw that seal on my forehead. If anybody else can, let me know. By adding the digits together according to the Pythagorean system of numerical philosophy, the number 144,000 is reduced to 9, the mystic symbol of man, and also the number of the initiation. For he who passes through the 9 degrees of the mysteries receives the sign of the cross as emblematic of his regeneration and liberation from the bondage of his own infernal or inferior nature. The addition of the 3 ciphers to the original sacred number 144 indicates the elevation of mystery to the 3rd sphere. When the 7th seal was broken, there was silence for the space of a half an hour. Then came forth 7 angels, and to each was giving a trumpet. When the 7 angels sounded their trumpets in tone, the 7-lettered name of the Logos, great catastrophes ensued. A star which was called Wormwood fell from heaven, thereby signifying that the secret doctrine of the ancients had been given to men who had profaned it and caused the wisdom of God to become a destructive agency. Ashiana Dean talks about wormwood a lot. And another star symbolizing the false light of human reason, as distinguished from the divine reason of the initiate, fell from heaven, and to it materialistic reasons was given the key to the bottomless pit, nature, which it opened, causing all manner of evil creatures to issue forth. And there came also a mighty angel, who was clothed in a cloud, whose face was as the sun, and his feet and legs as pillars of fire. And one foot was upon the waters, and the other upon the land, the Hermetic Anthropos. The celestial being gave St. John a little book, bidding him to eat it, which the seer did. The book is representative of the secret doctrine, that spiritual food which is the nourishment of the spirit. And St. John, being in the spirit, ate his fill of the wisdom of God, and the hunger of his soul was appeased. The 12th chapter treats of a great wonder appearing in heavens, a woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. This woman represents the constellation of Virgo and also the Egyptian Isis, who, about to be delivered of her son Horus, is attacked by Typhon, the latter attempting to destroy the child predestined by the gods to slay the spirit of evil. The war in heaven relates to the destruction of the planet Ragnarok and to the fall of the angels. The Virgin can be interpreted to signify the secret doctrine itself and her son, the initiate born out of the womb of the mysteries. The spirit of evil, thus personified in the great dragon, attempted to control mankind by destroying the mother of those illumined souls who have labored unceasingly for the salvation of the world. Wings were given to the mysteries, the Virgin, and they flew into the wilderness, and the evil dragon tried to destroy them with a flood of false doctrine. But the earth, oblivion, swallowed up the false doctrines, and the mysteries endured. The 13th chapter describes a great beast which rose out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Faber sees in this amphibious monster the demiurgus, or creator of the world, rising out of the ocean of chaos. While most interpreters of the apocalypse consider the various beasts described therein atypical of evil agencies, this viewpoint is an inevitable result of unfamiliarity with the ancient doctrines from which the symbolism of the book is derived. Astronomically, the great monster rising out of the sea is the constellation of Cetus, the whale. Because religious aesthetics look upon the universe itself as an evil and ensnaring fabrication, they also call to regard its very creator as a weaver of illusions. Thus, the great sea monster, the world, and its maker, the demiurgus, whose strength is derived from the dragon of cosmic power, came to be personified as the beast of horror and destruction, seeking to swallow up the immortal part of human nature. The 7 heads of the monster represented the 7 star spirits composing the constellation of the Great Dipper, called by the Hindus rishis, or cosmic creative spirits. The 10 horns, Faber relates to the 10 primordial patriarchs. These may also denote the ancient zodiac of 10 signs. The number of the beast, 666, is an interesting example of the use of Kabbalism in the New Testament and among early Christian mystics. And the James Morgan Parisi also notes according to this method of figuring, the Greek term, I don't know how to read Greek, which signifies the lower mind, has 666 as its numerical equivalent. It is also well known to the Kabbalists that whatever that name is, Jesus has for his numerical value another sacred and secret number, 888. Adding the digits of the number 666 and adding the digits of some gives the sacred number 9, the symbol of man and his unregenerate state, and also the path of his resurrection. So what I'm seeing is the Greek form of gematria, which I don't subscribe to. Numerology is fun, but it's misinterpreted. The 14th chapter opens with the Lamb standing on Mount Zion, the eastern horizon. About him gathered the 144,000, with the name of God written on their foreheads. An angel thereupon announces the fall of Babylon, this city of confusion or worldliness. Those perish who do not overcome worldliness and enter into the realization that spirit and not matter is enduring. For, having no interest other than those which are material, they are swept to destruction with the material world. And St. John beheld one like unto the Son of Man, Perseus, riding upon a cloud, the substance of the invisible world, and bearing in his hand a sharp sickle. And with the sickle of the shining one reaped the earth, This is a symbol of the initiator releasing into the sphere of reality the higher natures of those who, symbolized by ripened grain, have reached the point of liberation. And there came another angel, Boots, death, also with a sickle, karma, who reaped the vines of the earth, those who have lived in the false light, and cast them into the wine press of the wrath of God, the purgatorial spheres. The 15th to 18th chapters inclusive contain an amount of 7 angels, the Pleiades, who pour their veils upon the earth. The contents of their veils, the loosened energy of the cosmic bowl, are called the 7 last plagues. Here also is introduced a symbolic figure termed the harlot of Babylon, which is described as a woman seated upon a scarlet-colored beast, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and bedecked with gold, precious stones, and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations. This figure may have been an effort to probably interpolate to vilify Sybil or Artemis or the Great Mother, goddess of antiquity, because the pagans venerated the Mater Decorum through symbols appropriate to the feminine generative principle. They were accused by the early Christians of worshiping a courtesan, as nearly all the ancient mysteries included a test of the neophyte's moral character. The temptress, the animal soul, is here portrayed as a pagan goddess. In the 19th and 20th chapters is set forth the preparation of the mystical sacrament called the marriage of the Lamb. The bride is the soul of the neophyte, which attains conscious immortality, by uniting itself to its own spiritual source. The heavens opened once more, and St. John saw a white horse, and the rider the illumined mind, which sat upon it was called Faithful and True. Out of his mouth issued a sharp sword, and the armies of heaven followed after him. Upon the plains of heaven was fought the mystic Armageddon, the last great war between light and darkness. The forces of evil under the Persian Arman battled against the forces of good under Ahura Mazda. Evil was vanquished, and the beast and the false prophet cast into a lake of fiery brimstone. Satan was bound for 1,000 years, then followed the last judgment. The books were opened, including the book of life. The dead were judged according to their works, and those whose names were not in the book of life were cast into a sea of fire. To the neophyte, Armageddon represents the last struggle between the flesh and the spirit. When finally overcoming the world, the illumined soul rises to union with its spiritual self. The judgment signifies the weighing of the soul and was borrowed from the mysteries of Osiris. The rising of the dead from their graves and from the sea of illusion represents the consummation of the process of human regeneration. The sea of fire into which those are cast who fail in the ordeal of initiation signifies the fiery sphere of the animal world. In the 21st and 22nd chapters are pictured the new heaven and the new earth to be established at the close of Ahriman's reign. St. John, carried in the spirit to a great and high mountain, the brain, beheld the new Jerusalem descending as a bride adorned for her husband. The holy city represents a regenerative and perfected world, the true ashlar of the mansion. Holy. I'm saying letters that don't exist. For the city was a perfect cube in being written. The length and the breadth of the height are all equal. The foundation of the holy city consisted of 144 stones in 12 rows, from which it is evident that the New Jerusalem represents a microcosm patterned after the greater universe in which it stands. The 12 gates of the symbolic dodecahedron are the signs of the zodiac through which the celestial impulses descend into the inferior world. The jewels are the precious stones of the zodiac signs, and the transparent golden streets are the streams of spiritual light along which the initiate passes on his path towards the sun. There is no material temple in the city, for God and the Lamb are the temple, and there is neither sun nor moon. For God and the Lamb are the light. The glorified and spiritualized initiate is here depicted as a city. The city will ultimately be united with the Spirit of God and absorbed into the divine effigy. Saint John beheld a river, the water of life, which proceeded out of the throne of the Lamb. The river represents the stream pouring from the first Logos, which is the life of all things and the active cause of all creation. There also was the tree of life, the Spirit, bearing 12 manner of fruit, whose leaves were from the healing of the nations. By the tree is also represented the year, which every month yields some good for the maintenance of existing creatures. Jesus then tells St. John that he is the root and the offering of David and the bright and morning star Venus. St. John concludes with the words, "The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. Amen." That ends that section of the mystery of the apocalypse. Next is the faith of Islam. That should be interesting. So while reading that, I was getting a lot of downloads and a lot of visions. A lot. So I do apologize that I did not read that properly or even cohesively. What I was being shown is one of the potentialities that happen in a timeline of which I was in. That's why a long time ago, never read the Bible, didn't grow up with it. Someone did tell me that I had the cross and the seal upon my forehead. I didn't know what the hell that meant. I did not know, didn't want to know. I was curious, but Christ is within. We're all Christs. All of us are Christs. And the Armageddon is of the layering of densities that are shedding away from us. It's the ascending into another dimensional space, into a new frequency and wave stream. It's the old crumbling away to make room for the new. It's not the end of things. Your soul, which has many facets, I did a TikTok on that today. Your soul is a faceted gem. It's rare. It is the only one. It has a specific signature, all very unique to itself. And the facets are emulated, it is illumined through all of existence. So parts of you are already dead. And in some instances, some channels say you are already dead. This is a freaking dream. And when you wake up, you're going to be like, oh, wow, that was an experience. Just like when you dream at night, you'll wake up when your physical vehicle passes on and go, was that? Right? There is no death. There is the passing away of things, ideas, concepts, material world, and we're all going in the in-between right now. So things might be cataclysmic, things might be a war of good and evil, but that's an illusion. It's a reflection. When we take what is written and actually analyze it in the allegorical form and not take it literal, I actually appreciate the people who did that. I appreciate those priests and those mystery people who walked amongst everybody in plain sight and knew, had the knowing, they had the knowledge. And I believe we're in a very interesting section of society and time that we're in that now, but we're more outspoken. There's a lot of people like myself who are able to channel higher density information, and we're like kind of ignored, or we're kind of invisible because people just don't want to believe. They don't want to let go of what they have been indoctrinated and the narratives given to them. They can't see past it. Their logic and reason is of the material world, whereas many of us who have the understanding that there is way more to us that is concurrently happening simultaneously in this now moment, it's hard. It's beyond comprehension at times. Like, as I'm reading it up, I'm seeing blips of things that I was standing, not in this physical vehicle, but in another, like having experiences. It's crazy. And I do apologize because that gets me frustrated when I'm getting things and my brain isn't. It's like flipping. And I'm seeing words that are not there and letters that are not there. It's dyslexia, but that there's a lot more going on for that, obviously. So thank you guys for watching. We're so close to the end of this book. I'm really sad. But there's a lot to take in with this book. So I'm glad you guys are in it for the long haul. Thank you to everybody who supports me. This knowledge of looking outside of a different paradigm from yours is important, because I regardless of the hate that's flung at different groups and different societies and different things, they all have something to take away from. And I believe that a lot of the Gnostic stuff is very valuable because they're looking at it in an allegorical way and not as a literal way, but they're interpreting things as to this material nature and matrix. Very interesting. So guys, sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, shielding, and protection energy. Please go within yourself because a lot of the answers are there. Be the shoulder for somebody to lean on because you are the pillar in your community. You're the one getting the knowledge. You're the one that at least has the open mind. And eventually there are going to be people that come to you and they're going to need your shoulder because the information you have is explosive. And be the lighthouse so those people can see you. Can't just be me. It needs to be everybody who has the capacity to hold that frequency. Seed gently, as if you're growing a garden. And hopefully soon the shoots are coming up and we're going to get a beautiful harvest of beautiful people and souls that are going to graduate and go into the next matrix. And I hope many of you join me there. I might just be zipping hopefully up. Anywho, please have a beautiful end to your weekend. I hope everybody has a blessed, a beautiful, fantastic day, and I hope that the start of the week for you is easy. With saying that, I hope you all have a great night, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.